I'm Lisa Mitchell, certified body language trainer and communications expert. And this is People Reading with Lisa Mitchell, the show where you learn how to decode everyone around you and show up in a room exactly the way you want. Let's get started. All right, guys. Hi, it's Lisa Mitchell, the people reader and founder of Power Body Language. And I'm with my friend, Neil Falora. And he does all the things, really, he does. But he's a founder of an amazing app called Icebreaker. He's a founder of Feel Good Now, which is an amazing nutrition and health boosting and wellness focused company. And I'm lucky enough to have him be my friend. And because he really has this amazing gift for helping people just really communicate their message and invoke emotion and bring energy into the situation. And we are working, actually, we're in the middle of an unofficial coaching session, basically. I'm working towards auditioning for an event where I would be a speaker. And I brought Neil my outline because he has experience on this stage and many other stages. And he's been blowing my mind. And instead of letting all of this great, amazing coaching go to waste, we decided that we would record it. And Neil will be sharing it out as well. If you have the opportunity to work with him, I cannot strongly enough encourage you to connect sooner rather than later. And so we're just going to bring you in to the conversation and let you be a fly on the wall as we continue to talk through formatting a speech and hitting an audience the way you want to hit an audience. And it's going to be really cool. So stay tuned. Okay.
Great.
So Neil, let's
regroup a little bit.
Let's keep rolling here. And so what we've done so far basically is I've given Neil an outline and kind of given him my vision for a talk. And what has been really great so far is just some challenging questions back to me to say, what experience do you want to give your audience? What do you want people to feel from your time on the stage? How are you going to kind of channel your energy into bringing that experience? So people can really feel your point and not just hear a story. And so that's been massively helpful, Neil. And yeah, let's keep rolling while we got the momentum going.
Absolutely. So now that we've sort of shifted into painting the story and just inserting somebody into your life, right, in the moment, so that they really understand where you were, and then you pause with that and then ask them that opening question, right?
Right.
Which is,
so what is empathy?
So yeah, exactly. So what is empathy? And instead of, the one thing that really helps with moving a question or open-ended question like this is that our tendency, like I said, with silence is to give the answer, right? Is to feed people's minds, but allow them for a moment to ponder the question, so that it's just like anything in a buying process, whatever else, so that they can own the answer as well, right? So you're gonna give some silence, and you're not gonna give the answer right away, all the answer, or define it out for them, because each of them is going to, in their own mental construct, somewhere they have an agreement already in their brain about what is empathy, and they're gonna access that. So most of our challenges when we meet with somebody else in helping them see a new idea is that we come to somebody and we say immediately, this is what I think X is. And they pull back because they're like, I don't believe that.
The definition doesn't match. So personal dictionaries don't jive.
Absolutely. And that becomes a challenge, because then it becomes sort of a tug of war between what they believe and what you believe, because you didn't open up a space to go, okay, what I'm trying to do here is open up a conversation rather than force my opinion on you. And when we just state something at somebody else, our brain has this mechanism, because it wants to stay in the thinking patterns it's not going to take it on. So we're just going to float the question and then not really define it. And so looking at your outline.
So do you ever then, like after the pause, do you give your definition of it, or just even say, I define empathy as, or the traditional definition is, but this is how I see it? Like, do you even do a definition then after you ask that question, or do you just go into the next?
I think it's okay so there are different, it depends on the overall flow, but some of the possibilities are, okay, so you could loosely define it. Or what I like to do is to say like conventionally, or as it's commonly understood, empathy is X, Y, or Z, right? This is how, not so much your definition, but it could be like society's definition of empathy. The other thing that you could do instead of defining it right then and there is like, before we define empathy, what are some things that get in the way of empathy? All right. So one of the challenges as you're trying to open up this topic, as I see from your outline, is that you're talking about things that are there's 3 bullet points here that are going to help people sort of start living in empathy. But one of their main challenges might be why or what gets in the way of empathy, because these are all adults and they've lived lives, so they often press their edit button and they don't go to empathy. So
Right.
Can we talk about that?
So what if because I don't necessarily know that I even need to put the body language or the teaching piece in here. I almost feel like the point of this talk is going to be more to just disrupt complacency and to do challenge with it. So maybe instead of what I originally thought I would be adding, maybe we talk about what gets in the way of empathy, and we do lack of awareness, fear, lack of confidence in response, or not knowing what you're seeing, or I don't know, some play on maybe 3 or 4 roadblocks to living empathetically. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Pretending not to know is a big one. I saw a study someplace where they did where they had people who were in a situation, and some guy was struggling to do something, right? And people didn't jump in and help. And often what we do is that we don't jump in because we think somebody else will.
Right.
And we don't jump in because our image is in the way. If I jump in and I look stupid, so one of the things that could be getting to empathy is serving what's wanted and needed in a way that pushes your image to the side, right? So you're not worried how you're going to look. You're more concerned with what can I bring to the situation that's going to make it work out for everyone involved.
Okay, so say that again. So pretending not to know, but it's serving in a way that
is bringing what's wanted and needed while pushing your self-image out of the way. We often press the self-edit button because what we do is that in our mind's eye, we look at what we might do or what we might execute or what we might say, and then we have because of our negative bias in our brain, we're like, oh, that's stupid. People are going to make fun of me. I would feel weird if I did that. What if people didn't respond positively? Then I would feel bad about myself. It's getting that.
So the fear of judgment, because what I'm thinking as we're talking through this is maybe we just title kind of the broader stumbling blocks of fear of whatever, like fear of I don't know if it wouldn't be fear of awareness, but if we did like fear of judgment, right? Fear of being wrong, fear of engaging, maybe do it. Cause I'm a big thematic, like it's easier for me to remember a speech if I know that it all starts the same way. Then I only have to remember the final words. But I don't know, is that oversimplifying? Is that too formulaic for this topic?
It's not too formulaic. It's what I'm looking for, what's coming. So fear is an overarching term, but then what do you leave your viewership with? That what high vibration words do you leave your viewership with that they can act on, right? Mm-hmm. So our challenge is because we tend to communicate, all our communication tends to be communicated in a more negative way. These are the things to look out for. But what are the things that you should do internally as you shepherd your own thoughts that you should bring forward that are positive, right?
So what if we flipped it to, like, basically, here's how you're already perfectly equipped to live empathetically?
Absolutely. And so what we do is we build a space to understand, for people to understand that there's a sacred space in all of us that can do these limitless things and come to the rescue and be heroic in a way, if they're willing to step out of their self-edit or their fear or whatever else. And then we talk about superhero-like powers.
So it would be the power of blank fights, overcomes lack of awareness. And the power of blank overcomes judgment. And then the power of blank overcomes I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because then that way it's a you're already equipped to, like, so everybody knows when they walk out of the room, I already possess what I need to live empathetically, and I have the power that's greater than my fears, right?
Absolutely. So the power of a blank, what was the first one that you said? Was it awareness?
Yeah, lack of awareness or being too self-focused. The power of overcomes being self-focused.
You know, I'm thinking of a way to help people focus out. So the power of being in the moment.
Or being present, or being in the moment.
Being in the moment, because the challenge of awareness is that we're living forward and we're living backward. We're not here. So taking a deep breath and becoming fully present allows you to be aware. And that, yeah.
Okay, I like that. That's perfect.
And then what was the next one?
Power of blank overcomes fear of judgment, or what keeps us pretending that we don't know.
Yeah. So give me a moment here. I'm thinking about this. So when we feel judgment, it's our own judgment. It's always our own judgment, right? That overcomes us. We say it's everybody else's. So,
what about the power of certainty, or the power of confidence, or the power of I'm not landing on the word I love just yet, but something around, because if we're worried about judgment, right? So insecurity, it's basically insecurity, right? So fear of judgment has us in the space of I can't do that because other people will feel like I lack or something, right?
It's a worthiness conversation. It's almost a question of like flipping the question around and asking yourself, I like myself when I choose X versus, versus being in judgment. I like myself better when, or I feel more powerful when I allow something else to lead besides judgment. Let's think here.
Right. So it would be, I feel better when I am confident in my own worth than when I let other people decide my value.
Right. We're getting there. I feel better when I'm just comfortable in my own skin. I feel better when I exercise my own sense of worthiness. Let's think about that one a little bit. Let's come back to that one and try the next one.
And so that one overcomes fear of judgment. And then the last one would be, so do we want to have fear and judgment, or I guess maybe fear of being wrong? Like maybe that's the next fear, right? So being wrong. So the power of what? The power of good, the power of conviction, the power of I don't want to use the word rescuing because that doesn't sound right, but
so you're adding a fourth point here?
Well, no, this is the third one.
Okay.
So there's power of being in the moment overcomes lack of awareness and self-focus. Power of still to be determined word overcomes fear of judgment and pretending not to know or serve in the way. And then the power of blank overcomes the fear of being wrong. And the reason I use that point is because I literally stood in real time in the situation I was in recently. And even though I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that something was bad, and like I needed to take action, I kept saying, well, what if you're wrong? Even though I knew soul level, I wasn't wrong.
Here it is. Here it is. 99.9999% of the time, because our brains are so focused on keeping us alive, right? It's the power of knowing that you're not going to die. And I know this sounds stupid, but think about it. How many things do we approach? It's like we're going to get put on stage. We have to. It's going to be our turn in the circle of in a business meeting to give our idea. And the reason that we are holding our breath and freaking out is because internally, if you keep pushing somebody down and down and down, they'll say, "Oh, I don't want to look." It's the fact that they think they're going to die.
Right.
If they got up and said, and so it's
well,
really
and really, yeah. I mean, it's embarrassment. It's what if I'm wrong? What if I, have to apologize? What if I'm completely off? What if I falsely accuse? What if I, like this is all like stuff running in real time in my brain.
Right.
In that moment. And I don't know that I would have gone to what if I die, but there was an element of actually being in kind of physical danger, like
Sure.
I will. What if he flips out? What if he's got a gun when security walks in? What if, like all of this stuff was, so I yes, absolutely driven by that, right? Of trying to keep myself safe and like almost to the point that it overrode my desire to help someone else. Like there was several moments where I'm like, I'm just going to act like I don't see this and walk out. Like I'm just going to shut my mouth and get out of here and not engage.
It would have been easier to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it. I get it.
I like that. And that's a good like third point, I think, that people get. And it sounds a little dramatic, but it's really not. Like
say it again out loud so we can hear it. So see if it lands well or if it.
All right. So the power of knowing you're not going to die overcomes the fear of being wrong.
Yes.
I think it works.
I really think it does. And I think that most people can relate to that. And it's a way, and one of the things that we can say here, it's a way to talk to your emotional brain. It's a way to talk to your brain that's flipped out right now and just be reasonable with it, right? Going, look, we're not dying right now. I know you're flipping out, but we need to suck it up, pull our pants up, and take some action here. So.
Right. So using our powers allows us, or recognizing our powers, because we already have them. So recognizing our power allows us to take action and live empathetically, or to engage, to respond. That's what I want to say. Because response is kind of my overarching. That's what I keep coming back to. It lets us it lets us talk reasonably to our brain.
Yes.
Or some sort of, I don't know exactly how to word that yet, but I want to capture the sentiment. Turn off the alarms and protective mechanisms.
Settle down the villagers and get to action. All the things that are alarming in your body. I just had something come up for judgment. We'll see if you like it or not.
Yeah.
When you're there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So what I would say is that the way to overcome this fear of judgment is to know the power of your word. So when you're in judgment, you're taking somebody else's word, a conversation, words in your head, and you're letting them rule you. But knowing the power of your own word, meaning you can speak out, you can say something that's powerful. You can use your words to completely change what's going on in the world around you. We have so much of that evidence. Saying one complimentary or nice word to somebody else can so much affect them. So in the situation you're in, it's knowing the power of your word. That one of all, you don't have to be subject to other people's words, and whatever their judgment is, you can cast it off because you have your word, and your word is more powerful than anybody else's.
Yes, I love that. So here's what I'm thinking as we're talking through this, because what I was trying to do was to give like an antidote to a problem, right? So for this year, here's the antidote. But I'm almost thinking, what if I just did the most common reasons people don't respond, even though they feel what someone else is feeling because of 3 primary fears? Dun, dun, dun. Because all three of these antidotes kind of combat all three fears. Or do you think it's more powerful to draw this antidote fixes this fear, this antidote fixes this fear? Like from a presentation and an audience experience, what do you think would be?
I mean, I think you have your beginning story, right? Um, so and it's powerful in itself. So are you suggesting that for each of these points, then you might give a corollary anecdote that shows X, Y, or Z?
Yeah, or maybe I tee it up, right? Like I do my story, I ask, so what is empathy? And then I could say something, you know, like I consider myself to be a pretty aware, empathetic person. I consider myself to be pretty brave, but in that moment, I can tell you the fears that almost kept me from responding.
Oh, well, absolutely. And
You
who
know, and then lay the fear list out there and then go into, but here's the antidote. Here's what I pulled on. Here's what you can pull on in any situation.
Yes. And I think that makes it very relatable to say, here's the anecdote, right?
Right.
So in this analogy of what things tend to be kryptonite, here are our three antidotes to that. To get on your personal superhero, right?
Right. Because then I'm owning the fear, which is relatable, but not assuming that other people would have the same fear, but that'll be the conclusion. Be empathetic, but I can tell you that in that moment, these are the fears. This is what I was feeling. This is what I was feeling, or these are the fears that showed up for me. That showed up for me so powerfully that it almost kept me from taking action.
And I think that there could even be messaging here that because we all tend to think about heroics in terms of just pure raw acts of strength, you lifting a car off somebody and saving somebody right here, but we're using empathy to be the hero, not only of this story, but you could use empathy in your own story, right? To be the superhero, to be your own hero, right? To move your life forward, sort of thing. These are things that can do that for you on a daily basis. Is that something that you think is usable?
Yeah. Yeah. Here are the antidotes to those fears. And I'll work on transitions and stuff like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That you already have. Yeah. Okay, so
because everybody may not encounter the situation you encountered, right? But they can still exercise empathy in a certain way to be a hero in different situations, or even for themselves, right? That's where I often like that phrase, be your own hero. And in that you could have people leaving self-empowered in that way.
Yeah.
Because here's the crux of it. If you learn to be empathetic to yourself, it will be so much easier to be empathetic to others, right? We think that we want to practice all these skills outwardly and then somehow they'll fill us up, but we fill up our own cup and then it's just the spillover that's so easy then to exercise into life, into your environment, because you're already full of that particular quality.
Say that again.
Bear with me 1 second. Sorry.
No, you're fine. This is real life.
It is real life.
This is coaching in real life, man.
The dog barks.
It's not always shiny and perfect, but it sure gets a lot of good stuff done.
Nothing is shiny and bright and perfect about entrepreneurship, but I love it. So what I was saying is that one of the things that really could be I think impactful and impactful in general is that we understand empathy for ourselves in a way that fills us up. Because when you're full of a quality, it's really easy for you to give that in a much more powerful way, because your cup is already running over of that sort of thing. You're a walking value. People, when they come around you, we've all been around those people. They don't need to testify who they are or their qualities. It just runs off of them. So we're teaching them to be self-empathetic in a way that allows them to be empathetic naturally as they are walking around in their space in the universe.
Okay, so I paraphrase that a little bit, but so it's basically we're filled with the power of empathy already. The more empathetic we are to ourselves, the more readily equipped we are to show up for others in that way and to have the confidence to respond.
I love it. Yes.
Is that all right? And I'm going to keep wordsmithing this, of course, but I'm just going to capture the main sentiments.
Well, exercising.
I'm going to need more than 10 minutes. How do I do all this in 10 minutes?
I always do. My talks are like, every talk they're like, you need to take one slide out of your 8 slides and make that a talk. So I get it. I understand. So, but exercising our own internal values, we're talking here. We're just going to keep flowing with this, and not edit it. Right. I mean, we will edit it, but not edit what we're saying. Every idea isn't perfect, but it'll get there as we keep revising. So, and I'm happy to be part of the revision process. So
you're awesome, man. I need it. I need good editing because I get stuck in my own head sometimes.
Don't we all?
Yeah. So the next thing is, and I know you're really good at this too, is now that we kind of have the framework content-wise, there's like the thematic visuals, right? So the presentation that goes with this. And I don't even think that I don't even know if there's words. Maybe start with the what would you do, right, as I give my story. And then I think minimal slides, maybe 4 at the most.
And I think personally, if my background originally was in science, right? So when you're giving a science-based talk, sure, you have more bullet points. But I think for a lot of other things, just cool graphics or things that you put together that are going to charge emotion or bring out a point, for your audience. So what I do sometimes, often when I do a actual talk, is I'll take the feeling or a couple key words that are in that part of the topic, and I'll actually go to Google and Google images that surround that, right? So they might be paintings or watercolors or whatever else, and I put together slides, and I don't really worry about that. The titles of my slide tend to be a little abstract because they're not so much abstract. They're not just like, your traditional. Sometimes they ask a question, or sometimes they draw an analogy, a little bit in the title, so that they are bringing across the point that you're trying to make, but they're not so, what's the word I'm looking for? Linear.
Obvious. Yeah, they're not obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be 1 or 2 lines out of your talk, or out of that page that they're going to marry up perfectly. For me, the slides in the background are sort of like on a Hollywood set. They're the set, the mountains, whatever else. They're just adding value to whatever people are already bringing from their prose or their speaking.
That's gold, man. So good at this.
This is fun, right? I love this stuff. This is like, I know this sounds really, really probably way nerdy, but probably the most fun I have after writing and revising is going and picking out things that match up from an artistic standpoint of the emotion that I'm trying to evoke. And I spend a fair amount of time on that because it's sort of an artistic process.
Yeah, well, no, and this is super helpful. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm jacking this for one of my people reader episodes.
Okay.
This will be on the show, and this will be a podcast because this is way too good to not amplify the impact of and share. And considering that my audience that would be consuming that is millennial women who are looking to make impact and show up in big ways in their careers and their lives, like how valuable is the coaching you just gave? So with your permission, I will be repurposing.
Yeah, oh, of course. Just send them to Neil Falora, the Brain Warrior, and I'll help anybody who needs help. So yeah.
Yeah, where can people find you, Neil? Like, because
So
people are going to want to find you. They're going to want to do exactly what I just did with you.
right, right. So they can find me on Twitter, just NealPhalora, Falora, Neil Falora, or they can find me at a website that's not launched fully yet. So let's not do that. Or they can find me on Facebook. They can find me on Facebook, just my first name and last name. So I have a separate public page that's Neil Falora. So.
Awesome. Or you can connect with me at powerbodylanguage.com. I'll get you to Neil. It's Lisa at powerbodylanguage.com. If you want to email me, I'll be happy to make an introduction. It's one of the greatest joys in life when I can connect great people with other great people and solve problems. So, Neil.
Yes.
Incredible. You
Thank
just
you.
like took all my anxiety about this away. Like I'm so peaceful about it. And I feel like we have such a good plan. And I feel like now that I'm squared away on an outline, that when I bring it back to you and do a dry run, you're going to be like, that's great. Let's change most of it, but that's great.
You have no idea how excited I am for you for this talk. And this has been so much fun. I mean, I love the creative visual process of just taking ideas and taking ideas and reformatting them in a way that's going to provide an experience and provide positive social impact and really leave something with somebody with takeaway, so that when you're done talking, you've left something of yourself that is just completely given away by the end of your talk. That is just like no other feeling in the world for me. So yeah, amazing stuff.
Yeah,
amazing.
Well, now comes practice and rehearsal and refining and all of that stuff. So the work is just beginning. But I think it's so important, Neil. Thank you for being so generous with your time and your insights and your wisdom. And one of the things, knowing now that this is going to be repurposed for the show and the podcast, that I really want to encourage anyone is that you don't put yourself on an island, especially as you're trying new things. Like I do a lot of speaking, but it's usually in my area of expertise and it's very technical and it's science-based, and I have high confidence there. But when I'm transitioning into a different format for a different audience, I have as much discomfort as anybody else about the idea of getting up on stage and sharing myself. And so coaching is so important. And, not just public speaking, not just in crafting a great story, but just having people in your life like Neil, you are to me, is as a resource and a sounding board, and somebody to just make me laugh sometimes when I'm about to snap on something or someone. Like I have so much gratitude for you and your wisdom and your time, and for getting in space with you is always an honor, whether it's virtually or whether we're sitting down having breakfast together.
Which is much better, by the way.
It is. Breakfast is always better, but this will do in an ice storm pinch, when we're stuck inside all day.
Yeah.
But no, just thank you. And I'm very grateful for you and thankful for you. And thank you for being a partner to me and getting this and all my other messages out. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolute honor. And I had so much fun. This was a blast, really.
All right.
So,
well, we're gonna wrap it up here. So until next time, you can find me at powerbodylanguage.com, Lisa at Power Body Language. You can connect with Neil. It's Neil Falora, Phalora, on Facebook and on Twitter or through me. I'd love to do an introduction.
Awesome. And it's Neal, by the way.
Neal. Yes. All right.
All right. Take care, Lisa.
Bye, Neil.